Hello, everybody. How are you doing?
Hello.
I know it's a lazy Sunday. Let's get a hello from it. How's everyone doing? Is everyone having a fun time? Yeah? Oh, good, good, good. Well, sad news is Nadeem Farooq Paracha will not be joining us. Yes, I do not know exactly why, but it's top secret. We will tell you right after the talk's done, definitely. It's a matter of it's a national emergency. We'll get into it later. Right now, though, we have these wonderful, wonderful comedians joining us. When they told me, let me introduce myself. My name is Saad Haroon. Now, everyone, tell me your names. No, I'm just kidding. You don't have to. You don't have to tell me all your names. I've been a comedian for many years now, and a writer. And then on Sundays, sometimes I do these talks for no money. It's wonderful. It's great. I'm rich. Anyway, so we have with us another two comedians over here, and I'm going to be talking because usually what happens in these literature festivals is you end up talking to the older comedians, you know, the ones out there, and they've been doing a lot of, and you read it in Dawn, you know, in the print version still. You haven't even bought an iPad yet. I know that. Thank you, Uncle. Anyway, but you don't talk to these younger comedians out there, so that's what we're going to do for a little while some of you check your social media. So that's okay too. Don't worry about it, Uncle. You go right ahead and do that. So let's start right now. Please, introducing right now on stage is Soraya Mahmood. Give a big round of applause for Soraya, ladies and gentlemen. And Hassaan bin Shaheen. Keep it going for Hassaan bin Shaheen. Two young comedians. Let's start. So if any one of you are aspiring comedians, that also works. And also we're going to keep it very interactive, this session, because I think, you know, all of you are, you know, authors inside, comedians inside, never get to talk. We're going to change that right now. That's right. We're going to wake you up whether you want to or not. And Hassaan, starting with you. Hassaan, how did you get into comedy? And tell us what kind of a comedian you consider yourself.
These days, I don't consider myself a very good comedian because I find doing comedy in Pakistan very, very challenging. But I love it so much, so I keep performing in shows. And hopefully, because my experience has been so much, I've been able to manage through. And I got into comedy by watching you, man. Like, I saw you do your show, The Real News, and I was like, man, I really want to do this. And then, lucky enough, a year later, I saw you perform at the PACC. I'm like, you can actually make a living telling jokes?
Yeah, absolutely. I should have shown you my bank statement right after that and told you this is not the case, but it's okay. It's fine. It's good that you do comedy. And a lot of times, people always ask me when I do comedy, they're like, oh, is that your full-time job? Is that what you do? And I say, yes, it absolutely is. And Soraya, going to you, Soraya, what kind of a comedian do you consider yourself? And how would you kind of define your comedic personality?
I think my entire comedy, like the short career, comedy career, if you can call it that, is just a combination of the three things that I have been doing all these years, which is stand-up, I perform, and I create content, so I'm a content creator, and I'm a voice artist, so I do voiceovers, and I think these three things I've just kind of combined, and you know, it's kind of like three different things, but I'm trying to do them one by one.
Well, what kind of content comedically do you enjoy making the most?
I think personally, like when I write stand-up, it's what's most like personal to me, and I think what I enjoy most is writing for stand-up, and that's my main thing. And I think a lot of my stand-up is like, I don't want to label it like offensive humor, but a lot of it is...
It's meant to make a point?
Yeah, I would say that.
It's meant to make a point. Okay, fine. Because Soraya does a lot of online content and everything, also by other pseudonyms. She's quite famous on your phone as well. We'll see if you can figure out who she is later on in the show. But back to Hassaan. Hassaan, you have now gone over. So you've gone from comedy to rap and rap music back to comedy, and now you kind of bridge the divide between both. Why did you do that? How did you decide that you're going to kind of take comedy a step further?
I think we were talking about this earlier as well. Writing comedy, I think, is so hard because it takes like a part of your soul. आपकी रूह तड़प रही होती है किसी तरह कोई फनी बात निकल आए and like you're constantly in this existential कि मैं क्या funny हूँ या नहीं हूँ ज़िंदगी का मकसद क्या है नहीं है. So I was like this is just getting too much. It's too much pressure. So I was like I will just do rap and I was interested in rap as a kid and like as I experimented with it now I'm like figuring out कि comedy और rap का अगर आप मिलाप कर लो तो एक interesting सा combo निकलता है. And Ali Gulpir has already set that particular path.
Yeah, doing rap and satire.
Yeah. So I'm just trying to emulate what he's been doing, what you've been doing, and seeing like where my journey takes me.
Ah, okay. Yeah. And what is your writing process?
For rap, तो basically writing process बड़ा simple है. आप follow the rhyme. तो उसमें यही होता है कॉमेडी के अंदर आपको बहुत मेहनत करनी होती है लेकिन यहाँ पर अगर आपको कुछ लिखना है फ्लावर पावर टावर अच्छा इन तीनों जुमलों को आप किस तरह बता सकते हैं खरीदे मैंने फ्लावर मुझे मिल गई पावर कराची के पास है टावर तो वो बेसिकली होता क्या है कि ऑटोमेटिकली व्हेन यू आर राइमिंग फॉर द ऑडियंस इट्स लाइक ओह कुछ ऑटोमेटिकली
but it's right on the spot though.
Yeah, it's following the rhyme and seeing where it takes you.
And that's called freestyling.
Yeah.
Okay, great. Maybe let's try it right now. Let's see if we can get it. Can anyone you sir checking your phone? What's your name? Adnan, how are you doing, Adnan? What are you checking on your phone? I just want to know. The schedule, what's up next? You're like, I'm hedging my bets. These guys suck so far. Let me see what's right after this. Is there any Comedy Plus? You know, Adnan, what do you do? You're doing job in a financial sector. Okay, great. And can you give me 3 words from the financial sector? Sorry? Fintech? Fintech, and what's the second one? Financial inclusion, that's 2 words.
Financial literacy.
And financial literacy.
Yeah.
Okay, fintech, inclusion, and literacy.
सही है.
And here we go. Give a big round of applause to Hassaan bin Shaheen, ladies and gentlemen.
पैसे की बात आई देखो सर में आई कंफ्यूजन यहाँ पर जो बंदा बैठा बोले फाइनेंशियल इंक्लूजन जेब में नहीं पैसे मुझे बोल दो पी लस्सी देखो मेरे पास नहीं फाइनेंशियल लिटरेसी फंस गया मैं जेब में पैसे नहीं आते अम्मी बोले बेटा पैसे तुम क्यों नहीं कमाते तीसरा वर्ड था क्या मुझको याद नहीं है प्लीज बता दे ये बात नहीं
All right. Fantastic. Of course, we will be getting to you, the audience. You came alive. That's good for you. Good. We were going to call Edhi in the middle somewhere. You guys had died, but it's okay. You are back to life right now. Soraya, we're going to continue with you. So you kind of write a lot of times a humor that's difficult to digest, you know, and you do it under different characters. What causes you? You could always kind of go do the easy part, take the easy path, do something like that. Why don't you do that? Niche aa jao.
I think I don't make it a point to write a certain way, but it's always like what comes naturally, and I guess what comes naturally is the stuff that I want to talk about. I guess there's seriousness in that comedy, and but the process of writing itself is very like similar to I guess a lot of comedians, which is where it just starts with a thought, right? And you just have to. It's like this thing in your head. You're like, I have to write it down. I'm going to forget it. And you think it's a premise that's worth talking about. But I guess your way of talking about it is just through comedy. So I guess...
But a lot of times you can take a big risk going on stage and saying that thing.
Yeah. So it's always a risk because most of the times if all of your topics, like sometimes I'll look at my like book of jokes and I'll be like, oh my God, there's like, all of these topics are so heavy, right? Like how am I going to... So it is hard, but then... I feel like if you are writing, not just for comedy, but if you're just writing and you just kind of have to get it out of your system, and that's how I kind of look at it, or I just have to joke about it. I know that it's not going to be as funny as like somebody doing something sillier, maybe not as like laugh out loud funny, but I think it's about, for me, it's more about what I feel needs to be said. And
yeah. I think that the issue also is that it's a difficult medium, and we have a country that can sometimes be unforgiving if you say the wrong thing at the wrong time.
Yeah.
It's not just cancel culture; they'll cancel you sometimes. So it's a little bit difficult that way. And but it's hey, sir, what's your name in the red shirt? Shahzad, how are you doing? Shahzad, what do you do? You sell stationery. Okay, that's a new one. It's good. How did you get in? So you thought, oh, literature festival, time to make some money. Is that what happened? Or do you own like a pencil factory? Is that true? Yeah, I know. I don't know you, but yeah, you own a pencil factory now. I know. I sell stationery. You're very humble. That's a very humble way to say I have a pencil factory. I sell stationery. Okay. I know. I saw you knocking on my window the other day outside the car. You're like, I sell you some pencils. So Shahzad, what kind of comedy did you grow up listening to? A lot of TV.
Bill Cosby.
Don't say that name. He's not part of our panel. Nadeem Farooq Paracha is doing something different with him right now.
Yeah, I actually came here for Nadeem. Is he not showing up?
Everyone did. They're like, oh, Literature Festival, Nadeem Farooq Paracha. Who are these three people who don't write? Who are they? No, it's true. So, but I mean, why don't you guys take it from there? What kind of comedy influenced you to kind of start doing comedy? What influenced you to start doing comedy?
Just so many influences because I don't know. I really like Jim Carrey. I personally like the kind of artists who are able to weave different kinds of art genres and make it into one. For example, I really like Bo Burnham. Bo Burnham is a musician, and he mixes stand-up with comedy. And then there's Jeff Dunham, who's a ventriloquist and a stand-up comic. And then you have your standard comedians that everybody likes. I'm just inspired by watching people engage in conversation. When you watch the natural way by which people tell jokes, because I think genuinely everyone is funny, but if you develop a ear for listening to the kind of jokes that they're making, that is the kind of comedy that I'm really inspired by, situational things.
Get closer to the mic.
Situational things. And I really like the guy who made Curb Your Enthusiasm, Larry David.
Yeah, Larry.
I really like his comedy.
Okay,
cringe
what about
comedy? Cringe comedy.
Cringe comedy is what
cringe
you like.
Comedy, yeah.
You don't just like straight out. It just doesn't appeal to you that.
It does, but I like my skin crawling from the inside, being like, यार ये कैसी अजीब सी बात कर ली आपने, ओफ, पर कितना मजा आया.
Is that why the rap came into it? Comedy wasn't enough?
No, because I feel like rap as a medium of expression does a better job of communicating difficult subjects than comedy does. Because in comedy you require a lot of effort and a lot of curation, a lot of really editing things out. With rap, it's like anything goes. Jo bolna hai, bol do, and also it's a new genre, so the limits have not been defined. With comedy, there has been historically a lot of trend in trying to control what can be said, what can't be said. So I find rap a lot more freeing, and I exercise less self-censorship when I'm rapping.
Oh, brilliant. What about you, Soraya?
You can say a lot more. I don't know. Correct me if I'm wrong.
Get closer to the mic, just a little closer to the mic. Yeah, you can also pick it up and put it there if it's. There you go.
I'm short. Anyway, I was saying that I don't know if this is true, but I feel like in rap you can kind of get away with saying a lot of things that maybe if it was just a full-on joke, it wouldn't really fly with people, right? Is that true? I don't know.
That is true because people are forgiving. अरे ये तो rapper, ये तो वैसे ही हटेला है. सही है, ये आपका expression होता है. Comedian के ऊपर एक थोड़ी बहुत जिम्मेदारी होती है क्योंकि I think पाकिस्तान में दो किस्म के comedians होते हैं. एक तो होता है मस्खरा. तो मस्खरे को जो बोलना है बोल दो. लेकिन at the end of the day they will never get that respect नहीं मिलेगी. वो मस्खरा ही रहेगा. लेकिन comedian on the other hand is a term which requires you to exercise decency, be nice वगैरह. लेकिन rapper में हाँ भाई जंगली है जो बोलना है बोलो. तो वो I find that easier.
No, it is. But the thing is, people don't see a lot of times the years sometimes of hard work in putting together a show. Sometimes it's everyone sits in front of their laptop, but you have to sit for hours and hours. You get one funny thing,
right.
And then you can't even say, "Oh, good, I wrote one funny thing." You have to move directly on to the next funny thing, and the next funny thing, and the next. You literally have to have hundreds of jokes in one show. And so, do you think that it pays off over here, where we don't have a culture of comedy clubs or anything like that? Do you think it still pays off to do comedy in Pakistan? Yes? Why don't we start with you, Soraya?
I think it pays off because I feel like even if as a comic I do one show, for me that post-show high and just performing itself is so great and it's why you want to do it, that I feel like sometimes if you're in Pakistan, you want the comedy culture, but a show is enough for you to get, pumped about doing all your jokes and everything. I don't really feel sad that, there's no comedy culture, because I feel like sometimes, having one show a month is what really makes you, drives you to actually write. And I want to add that, what was the point I was going to say? About it paying off, I feel like if you're doing it for the fact that, you know, you've written something and you're like, I can't wait for this to just be out there. It really doesn't matter like how many shows you're doing a night or like how many comedy shows are happening or who's watching even sometimes, you know. It's kind of just like you wrote something and you need to like get it out. And sometimes it doesn't even matter how it's going to be received. Not so much in stand-up, but definitely like other kinds of content online that you make. It's just in you and you kind of have to get it out, is how I see it.
Hassaan, same question.
ये पैसे तो नहीं बनेंगे, पॉकेट मनी अच्छी हो जाएगी, टाइम टू टाइम लाइक यू गेट गुड अपॉर्चुनिटीज, आपको मज़ा आता है, फिर आप कहते हो वाह मैं फ़नी बातें कर रहा हूँ, मुझे लोग इसके पैसे दे रहे हैं, मतलब हाउ डू दे नॉट नो कि यू नो यू कैन प्रॉब्ली गेट दिस फॉर फ्री एज वेल इफ़ यू आस्क मी नाइसली, बट आई थिंक कि इट्स विद कॉमेडी इन पर्टिकुलर इन पाकिस्तान, चूँकि अच्छा मैं कंपेयर करूँगा विद इंडिया फॉर एग्जांपल, इंडिया के अंदर जो आर्टिस्ट होता है ना उसकी बड़ी इज्जत होती है, राइट, मतलब कि स्टेज मंच होता है, स्टेज नहीं है, सही है, आप रिस्पेक्ट करते हो. पाकिस्तान के अंदर आप किसी को कह दो कि आप कमेडियन हो तो ऑटोमेटिकली जो ना लोग, अच्छा तुम करते क्या हो, तुम एक्चुअली नौकरी क्या है.
There's no real respect for artists. It kind of just dissipates every time because there's too many other bankers in the audience and giving you a
And I also feel like, especially for like Hassaan and I, who both did law, and we were supposed to have these legal careers, to then be a comic is even more like, oh, so you were almost somewhere, and now you're just a comedian. So it's, I think it's like worse in a way, but I mean, just the fact that we're doing it, you know, despite not having a stand-up culture, for example, just says that, you know, if it's in you and you want to do it, you definitely will, I think. You will end up doing it.
Okay, brilliant. And also, why don't we take another question from the audience? I don't know. Does anyone have a question right now? Oh, yes, go ahead. For any of these budding comedians.
Why don't you perform stand-up comedy?
Oh, perform stand-up comedy right now? Because it's they wanted to talk about it.
Yeah.
But we'll get them to do, we'll get them to do a few jokes.
Yeah.
We want that you should perform stand-up comedy.
Okay, you just want a free show, sir. You came to Adab Festival exactly, they're all there. There's no ticket money. And I know as soon as they ask me a question, so what do you do?
I'm a retired person.
What did you used to do? Army, okay, fine.
चलें भाई जल्दी perform
used to
करते
be
हैं.
Army, yeah.
Let's perform right now.
Oh, wait a second, sir. Used to be in the Army. Okay.
But I feel like
fine.
this happens a lot, right? Like when this is an automatic response as well. Like when you see a comedian, you're like, wait, why are they talking about things like, you know, if you're a comedian, you should tell us a joke like right now.
Yeah, comedians are actually very serious. And this is still fine. As a lot of times when you do comedy on the radio, it completely falls flat because there's no audience there. It cracks a joke and then if there's no laughter or claps, then even you decide, oh, it's not funny. Nobody else laughed or clapped. You're like, wait a second, there's nobody else to laugh and clap. But right now there are people to laugh and clap. And so why don't we do this? Because we're starting and talking about these young comedians. Hassaan, why don't you tell me one of the very first few jokes?
The first few jokes,
very first few jokes, because a lot of times the first few jokes you write in comedy, sometimes they're very difficult to write, and also sometimes you don't want to do them anymore, because as you go along in your comedy career, you get better and better and better. But where did it start? Where's that one joke you wrote?
यार वो मैं सुना नहीं सकता अब.
तुम सुना. Everyone here is fine, right? If you have kids, you can close their ears.
नहीं मेरे ख्याल से बड़े लोगों को भी कान बंद करने पड़ते हैं.
Okay, fine. It's okay. It's literature.
It's literature.
Just call it literature. You know, Manto did it. Grow up. Okay? No, okay, well, go ahead. Just tell whatever joke you want to tell.
अच्छा, this is very. अच्छा, this is the. मैं एक ज़माने में when I was in the UK, I was also training as a stand-up comic. तो मैं वहाँ पर बैठा हुआ हूँ, लंदन में जा रहा हूँ, मुझे याद आई अपने आबाई गाँव की. मैं कॉन्टेक्स्ट दे रहा हूँ जो कभी शुरू नहीं हुआ है. याद है आबाई गाँव की जौहर की. तो I was just walking around the street and I was just like, oh my God, people in Johor live different lives from people in Defense.
He means Gulistane Johor.
हाँ, Gulistane Johor सही है.
Not the person Johor. Okay, so why don't you?
So I was just like कि people in Defense in Johor. अच्छा इसकी trigger की thought मेरी यही थी कि मतलब कि we were chilling at a restaurant in the UK. तो मेरी एक दोस्त है, मैं से उसके बारे में इतना कहूँगा कि वो सिर्फ DHA में रहती थी और वहाँ पे जाके बोलती कि यार यहाँ पर कितने सारे पाकिस्तानी आए हुए हैं. And I was like वो भी तुम्हारे बारे में यही बोल रहे हैं. And that basically triggered this thing कि अब जौहर और डिफेंस के अंदर जो बुनियादी तौर पे फ़र्क है वो क्या है कि डिफेंस वाले जो होते हैं ना, मतलब दिखते भी वैसे ही हैं, बातें भी वैसे ही करते हैं, बट लाइक basic differences. For example, when you meet somebody from defense and if they're introducing their partner, it's going to be a very cool affair, right? Okay, bro, I'm dating her. And everyone's like, yeah, respect, bro. Good on you for dating her. Great job. Johar के अंदर होता है कि आप दिखाते हैं picture, जानी, भाभी तो check कर. सही है. तो automatic. This is just a fundamental difference between Johar and defense.
So that was one of the first jokes you wrote?
First jokes, but it went into like an entire deconstruction of why Johar is better than defense.
Yeah, and we still talk to this. And then every time Hassaan bin Shaheen comes over, he's like, look, Saad, I took a shower. Did you do that in defense? Did your tanker come today? He's like, we have water, bitch. And it's okay. I'm like, all right, great. Thank you for telling me that, Hassaan. He's like, so every time he tells me how Gulistan and Johar is better than defense, and I believe him. I do believe him. Wow. And Soraya, tell us, where did your comedy start? What's one of the first jokes that you did?
I mean, way before I did stand-up or ever did stand-up, I'd been wanting to do it for like 3 years. So I just didn't have the guts to do it, and I just had like a full-on like set already written that I never performed. So it had time to, like cook and be something, and but it was, I don't know if I have.
You do have it? Oh, tell us. You guys want to hear it? Give us some applause. You guys want to hear it? Good.
But I haven't like performed in like a year, so I don't know how. I'm a bit rusty.
It's okay. Clapping is free. Do it more. Come on.
Okay, so one of the first jokes that I wrote was, I've recently started drinking coffee. I find coffee to be such a good source of energy, especially if you use cocaine as a whitener. And then I have one, this was one of the first ones I ever wrote, which was, growing up, I just hated math. I hated math so much. And when I was done with my O-levels, I was so relieved that I'd never have to do math again. But then I realized, qabr mein bhi hisab hota hai. And then, I guess this is the first. There's one that says, I'll marry anybody who let me shout talaq in a room that echoes. And then I had one which is like, God is great and all, but I think he'd make a terrible roommate. I mean, I need space, man, and that guy is literally everywhere. So those are like the first few jokes that I wrote.
Give a big round of applause.
What about you? Your turn.
I think you're right, Hassaan. What you said in the beginning was that I think first comedy starts at home, and a lot of time you start writing comedy, and since you did the Johar joke, let me do my defense version. You guys want to hear the defense version?
Yes.
ये सब defense वाले ही तालियां बजा रहे हैं.
Yeah, I know. So the thing is, I think that when I first started writing comedy, I did start writing it about kind of like the class differences and everything that we do have it. And I said that, I love living in Karachi. I love living in Karachi because I live in a bubble. A good bubble, a clean bubble, a defense Clifton bubble. And I love it in here. In my bubble, everybody speaks English, or at least some of them pretend they can. And all the girls wear jeans, or at least some of them pretend they can. And I only get scared once a year, ladies and gentlemen, when I have to leave that bubble, when I have to go outside that bubble, when nothing can stop me getting outside that bubble. And I find myself at the back of my father's car and I'm screaming, no, Daddy, no. I don't want to go to Kedah, Daddy. Don't take me to Kedah. Beta, it's KDA. It's not that far away. And there's only one thing scarier than leaving your bubble, and that's when somebody comes into your bubble. And you know how you know when somebody comes into your bubble? You hear this noise. Wah, wah, 1,000 times louder. It's 1,000 silencer-less motorcycles coming madly through the underpass. Wah. And all the little burger boys and girls, they're scared. They're like, what's that sound? That's that sound. And they say, don't be scared. I think it's Nazma Badis. I said, and what do? We're going to do the only thing we know how to do. We're going to put the music really loud, put our chairs back in the car, and ride around Khadda Market like this. Why is it, ladies and gentlemen? Oh, so can I tell this joke? I guess I can tell this joke. Why is it whenever you're giving somebody directions in defense, it's a dirty conversation? Have you noticed whenever you're giving someone directions in defense, it's such a dirty conversation. Like, hello, where are you? Okay, first get on Shaheen. and then go down Shahbaz, and then come out on Hafiz, okay? I don't know why, so... You asked for free comedy. I can't take it back now, okay? But... So that's one of the first few jokes that I wrote. Oh, come on, it's okay. I know you're sitting next to your parents. Just go to a Shairi session out of that, wash out your ears, okay? After this is all done. Hassaan, we'll go to you right now. So, and then the thing is, with art, it starts with all these jokes and everything, and then I do like this idea that you've transitioned to rap. And I want you now to kind of, it's instead of kind of going on like this, let me know what is the first one of these first raps that you've written. Tell us, do you want to hear Hassaan bin Shaheen's rap now? Can you pick up your mic and put your mic closer so that we can, yeah.
अभी I used to write serious rap, फिर मुझे realize हुआ कि मैं actually मैं serious हूँ नहीं, तो मैंने अभी कुछ नए गाने लिखे हैं जिसके अंदर होता है कि रैप कल्चर के अंदर जो बुनियादी तौर पे चीज़ होती है ना, everyone is trying to flex, they're trying to show कि I know my stuff, मैं आपका हर बंदे को जो है ना सबका बाप बनने का शौक होता है ना, and like this is the thing, मैं डैडी हूँ तुम्हारा, मैं अब्बू हूँ तुम्हारा, तुम मेरे बेबी हो, तुम मेरे बच्चे हो वगैरह ब्ला ब्ला ब्ला. तो फिर मैंने जो है ना क्या किया कि I basically took the traditional rap trope and like I turned it around. तो मैंने फिर ये कुछ लाइनें लिखी हैं कि इसमें मैं अनाउंस कर रहा हूँ दुनिया को कि हसान भाई, that's my rap name, सही है, हसान भाई मार्केट में आ गए, अब आप छेड़ नहीं सकते. तो मैं आपको सुनाता हूँ वो उसकी कुछ लाइन है कि मैं आया यहाँ पे था 1990, पैदा में शाही ये अब तक हैं कव्वे, हम खुला है दूध ये डब्बे में बनते हैं, ये क्यों सबके फिर अब्बे हैं, हम डिटर्जेंट ये तो फिर धब्बे हैं, ज़िंदगी में चंद ही तो लम्हे हैं, होके लंबे इन्हें खाने चंबे, डोंट मेक मी शूट यू ये सब तो हरम्बे हैं, देते हैं सफाई बहुत, करूँ मैं धुलाई बहुत, पानी में पानी हूँ इन्होंने आग लगाई बहुत, आई इनकी मौत अब, हो जाए ये फौत अब, मीडियोक्रिटी योर शॉर्टकट, हम वी आर तुम और कट, मेरी बातों पर तू गौर कर, अब एक होते तेरी नीयत में खोटे, तेरे जैसे वो शोधे होते ओके, और तेरे जो शोबे वो दे तुझको धोके, तुम छोटी सी छालिया हम पूरे हैं खोके, तुम पीते हो सिगरेट हम करते हैं योगे, हम करते हैं फंक्शन बट रहते हैं हम लोकी, ढूंढते हम मौके, नीचे कर आंखें पकड़ ले कान फिर चल फुट ले, अबे फुट ले ले खुल ले, तुझे चुपते मेरे फिक्रे तेरे नुस्खे फिक्स नक्शे, बट फर्स्ट ब्रीथ फॉर अ सेकंड नाउ, थोड़ी सांस ले थोड़ी सांस ले थोड़ी सांस ले. So it's like that.
That was really good. I really enjoyed that. And for someone, I think that I think when I grew up, there was no name for it, but I had a lot of trouble in school. I did very badly in school. I failed class 7 and everything. I could never memorize lines. And so for someone like me in comedy, that was a real setback, a real drawback. Even before I do a stand-up comedy show, I have to spend hours and hours, no matter how many times I do it, kind of going over my lines. And so what is one of those things, Soraya, that really kind of hinders you and holds you back when you do comedy?
Honestly, when it comes to stand-up, especially, I think this is the exact problem that I have. I was also like terrible at school, honestly. I was really bad. And I feel like memorizing, I can never do it. And it's one of those things that if you really want to nail like your stand-up set, maybe, like I think you need to be able to do that. And I can't do that. Every time it's a different version of like the joke in some way. And also the nerves, like after I have the mic, I'm okay, but like the initial like going up on stage is always like, you know, I've had like a bad reputation for just backing out last minute or putting my name on the list and then taking it off and then not doing it and then half doing it and preparing like a 10-minute set and doing like 5 minutes and leaving. And you know, it's really like tough. And that's what people don't understand, that there's a difference between like just being really funny and being a comic, right? Because that's a job, right? And like it takes work, and it kind of really holds you back when you can't like memorize things perfectly, or you know, you forget things on stage and stuff like that. So that's one of the things.
And Hassaan, what kind of is that difficult thing that would always hold you back in your comedy?
What would hold me back was like this desire to, you know, be like a straight up stand-up comic, which is कि even stand-up comics का भी मसला सारा ये होता है कि they're purists. They're like it needs to be one man, one mic, facing the audience, looking into the abyss and really like landing those jokes. Ha ha ha. That's the kind of imagery that is sold to you as a comic, that it's you against the world, it's you against an audience. And I was just like, this is just too much pressure. So I'm just like कि कभी मेरा रैप करने का दिल चाहेगा तो मैं रैप करूँगा, कभी मेरा कोई stupid बात करने का दिल चाहेगा वो करूँगा. तो बस allowing myself to what I'm feeling in the moment and just like going with the flow has really helped as opposed to trying to control every aspect. So I have a question for you, Saad bhai. Now you've been doing comedy for like quite a while.
Yes.
And mashallah, you have like so many hours of material. And we look up to you still. So does it ever get easier, man?
No, I mean, yes, in a way it does get easier, but also the more comedy you do, the more expectations of the audience grow. But the audience doesn't seem to change in Pakistan sometimes. You know, a lot of times they'll be on their phones during a performance or a talk, you know, when it's really rude, but they'll still be on their phones. That happens. Hint, hint, uncle up there, I see you. He just put down his phone, like I can't see it, like behind the chair. He just put down his phone. But no, I think that it does get very difficult, and also, and since you guys have come to hear us talk, I hope that you'll take this to heart and also tell the people that you go to other talks and performances too that it's difficult to do comedy, it's difficult to come up on stage and talk and everything like that. So just like, as performers, we're not given the respect, and we put in the hard work and we put in the effort, but we're not given the respect that a lot of times that that comes with doing something like this. And so I hope that, and this isn't a lecture, this is kind of like a heartfelt kind of thing, that if you want more of these talks and more of these festivals and everything, you got to kind of be the people who do that. And that uncle's texting again. Can you see, like, during my speech, he's texting again. I can't believe it. You see, it's just one of those things, like you just can't, like, people are like, why are there more comedians in Pakistan? Oh, why aren't there more audiences in Pakistan, who will respect us, but they won't,
I think...
No, sorry.
No, go on.
No, please.
I think it also comes from misunderstanding comedy completely, right? It's not even... people forget that, I mean, comedy comes from writing just like any other kind of literature or anything like that, right? And I feel like it's not meant to be taken seriously, of course, but it is meant to be taken seriously because it's just another way of expression, right? And I feel like there's this disconnect between understanding like where a comedian is coming from with a joke, like what the origin of something you've said is, and like I feel like there's a disconnect there because it's not taken seriously as like a thing that people do, right? It's more of like, oh, that guy's funny in the group, he can probably just...
Yeah, I wrote a joke about this in the middle. Like, when I started comedy, people ask me, what do you do? I say, oh, I'm a comedian. Then they probably be like, okay, what does your father do then? Like, they thought that where's the money coming from? Yeah. This cannot be a profession as such. And we still fight for that respect every time we get on stage and every time we do something. But we also wear it as a badge of honor. We wear it as a badge of honor that we've been, kind of pushed to do this that much. But I do want to get your questions for these young comics right now, because before we run out of time, does anyone have any questions? Yeah, can you just yell it out? We don't need the mics. It's okay. I'll start with, it's a good question. Thank you so much.
मैं अगर इंडिया की चूँकि कॉमेडी को मैं बहुत ज़्यादा डिटेल में स्टडी करता हूँ, और यहाँ पर भी हमारा इंडिया के अंदर जो सबसे अच्छी बात ये है कि उनकी इंडस्ट्री ऑलरेडी डेवलप थी. दे हैड अ बॉलीवुड इंडस्ट्री, दे हैड लाइक क्रिएटिव प्रोफेशनल्स, दे हैड लाइक सिस्टम इन प्लेस. यहाँ पर यूट्यूब काफ़ी अरसा बंद रहा. उसके बाद क्या कहते हैं, जब यूट्यूब खुला तो फिर यू हैड कमेडियंस अपलोडिंग देयर कंटेंट ऑन यूट्यूब, जो कि इंडिया के अंदर ऑलरेडी डेवलप हो चुका था. इंडिया के अंदर जो मैं कहूँगा कि इंडिया के अंदर जो एवरेज कॉमिक है ना, उसकी एक अच्छे टॉप क्वालिटी पाकिस्तानी कॉमिक से 3-4 मिलियन ज़्यादा व्यूज़ होंगे, सिंपली बिकॉज उनकी एक तो पॉपुलेशन बहुत ज़्यादा है, दूसरी वजह यह है कि उनका यूट्यूब बैन नहीं हुआ, तीसरी वजह यह है कि उनके प्रोड्यूसर्स अच्छे हैं. यहाँ पर हमें जो प्रोड्यूसर्स मिलते हैं जो कहते हैं हम आपके कॉमेडी शोज़ को प्रोड्यूस कराएंगे, वो हमें इतने पैसे, जितना जब उन्हें कहते हैं ना हम आपका शो प्रोड्यूस करेंगे, हम वीडियो बनाएंगे, हम प्रमोट करेंगे, हम मार्केटिंग करेंगे, और उसके बाद कहते हैं कि इस काम के लिए इवन दो देर द वंस हु आर गेनिंग फ्रॉम आवर कंटेंट, वो इस तरह हमें यूं कहते हैं जैसे हम पर एहसान कर रहे हैं कि आपकी खुशकिस्मती और खुश असलूबी ये है कि हमने आपको मौका दिया कि आप आके परफॉर्म करें. तो द रीज़न वाई ये होता नहीं है बिकॉज प्रोड्यूसर्स आर पर्टिकुलरली एक्सप्लॉयटेटिव एंड दे वांट टू एक्सट्रैक्ट योर लेबर, दे वांट टू एक्सट्रैक्ट योर जोक्स एंड गिव यू सो लिटिल फॉर इट कि कमीडियन के लिए सर्वाइव करना बहुत मुश्किल है. इंडिया के अंदर एज अ कॉमिक यू कैन सर्वाइव, यू कैन मेक अ लिविंग, यू कैन डू शोज. उनके जो टॉप कमीडियंस है दे टूरिंग ऑल ओवर पाकिस्तान. हर उनका कमेडियन जो है एंड्स अप डूइंग इनक्रेडिबली वेल बिकॉज एक तो उनकी पॉपुलेशन बहुत ज़्यादा है, दूसरी बात यह है कि उनका कल्चर भी बहुत सपोर्टिव है. यहाँ पर अगर मैं कॉमेडी कम्युनिटी की बात करूँ तो द प्राइमरी सपोर्ट दैट वीव गॉट इन इज फ्रॉम साद हारून बिकॉज ही इज़ एन इंडिविजुअल. मैं इसलिए इनका रोल की बात करता हूँ बिकॉज 3 years ago we did this little session in which he brought us the comedians. He's like कि अगर आपको पाकिस्तान में कमेडियन बनना है आपको खुद एंटरप्रेन्योर बनना पड़ेगा, आपके लिए कोई बंदा काम नहीं करेगा, आपके लिए कोई बंदा मदद नहीं करेगा. एंड वहाँ पर you have entire institutions doing it for you. यहाँ पर a comedian who is doing his own career had to step up. तो ये बहुत मेजर फ़र्क है कि हमारे इदारे या हमारे organizations are not supportive and are very very exploitative. That's why it hasn't happened.
And I also feel like it's true for other things in Pakistan as well, right? Like it's not just comedy related or like producers in general. I feel like generally if you're in a, you're an artist or any artist and you're trying to make it in a place that is honestly not giving you platforms of any sort, not just online, but like you're not getting the support, you're not getting the platform or even the encouragement, even from your, like for some people within their own homes, right? So it's really hard to work around that and still like, reach levels that like maybe countries like Indian comics are reaching, where there's so much, not just support, there's like they're taken seriously as people who do this for a living, and there's platforms that are built around that, like that is a life path that you could choose. This is not considered a life path that you could choose. It's a very like funny thing for people to talk about that, oh unki beti comedian hai or unki beti ye video banati hai or whatever. It's not a thing of pride that somebody would invest in it, right? Even the producers that are exploiting people, they themselves are not really thinking that this is, they're just like, acha ye to kuch chal raha hai, hum log ka isme kuch bana de. They don't know, they don't think that this is a serious and respectable sort of career. So when you're in a situation like that and your competitor, like global people who we're competing with are like Indian comics who honestly have everything that they would need, like they even have a comedy culture, like they have the stand-up culture and everything. So it's like expecting a lot out of just tiny community who is trying to just get a few shows out or like just a few videos or something like that. We're being like juiced, man, like so it's kind of difficult.
Just one question before you. Thanks.
I have a quick question. I know for an artist, a comedian in particular, freedom of expression is vital. But in a country like Pakistan, where you can't talk about like the army, the religion, you can't joke about them, especially. How does that limit you as a comedian, as an artist, to want to, or how does that impact your work and your opinion about dark humor?
That's really good.
Do you want to start again? Why don't you start?
I think it's actually particularly difficult to do like dark humor or offensive humor, and the problem is that it's not even like the end product is when you go on stage and tell a joke, right? But you're limited right from like your thoughts, like you can't even think a certain thing because you're like, I definitely can't write about that and I definitely can't perform that. So it's really really limiting, and to be able to do jokes that are offensive that way or like dark or not considered things that you should joke about, it's really tough. You can either do it, anonymously, or you really have to understand that what I'm saying can have consequences, and I will go and say this thing because I need to say it, but it's not, like it's so not ideal for a comic to be in a situation like that, where your thoughts are limited. Like that's the most private thing you can have, and even that is limited because then what you write is based on your thoughts, right? And you're like, oh, I have to think in this box. I have to be funny in this box, even though what I'm thinking about is all this dark stuff that I really want to talk about, right? But I can't. So, yeah.
And Hassaan, have you ever gotten in trouble or anything, or?
एक ज़माने पे मुझ पे जो है ना मैं एक शो करता था जिसका हम कम बैक करना चाह रहे हैं, उसका नाम था फितना फसाद और मोहब्बत. और उस शो का जो पूरा मकसद होता था कि आप आएँ खुलकर जो बातें करनी है करें. और उसके बाद हुआ क्या कि वी डिड इट लाइक फॉर 4 shows, बट देन आई गॉट अ कॉल सेइंग कि आपका लड़का जो है ना बहुत उछल रहा है, तो ज़रा उसे कहें कि ज़रा थोड़ा हल्का हो जाए. तो फिर मुझे अंदाज़ा हुआ कि अगर पाकिस्तान में आपको सच बोलना है ना तो द फ्रंटियर दैट इज़ लेफ्ट इज़ मीम्स. हमें क्या कहते हैं, मीम्स एक ऐसी चीज़ें हैं कि जो बड़े लोग भी देख रहे हैं, बूढ़े लोग भी देख रहे हैं, बच्चे भी देख रहे हैं. मीम्स आर दी ओनली वे बाय विच वी कैन लाइक कम्युनिकेट बिट्स ऑफ इन्फॉर्मेशन कॉमेडिकली. अगर आपकी शक्ल आगे जा रही है तो आप फंस गए भाई, कोई सीन ही नहीं है, आप बात ही नहीं कर सकते इन चीज़ों के बारे में. और
And sorry, I feel like people are really quick to they won't even think about if it even meets the offensive standard. It's literally like they'll read one word or like one topic and they'll be no, you can't joke about that, you can't talk about that, even though it's technically, even if you wanted to put it in that like box, it doesn't even make it to that, right? Like you can't even say certain words in jokes anymore. And I feel like
it's also that I think that the world at large is looks for virality everywhere. I think that there's actual programs because you need to fill these social media pages and just this content everywhere with something. And so there's actually people actively looking for things to make an issue out of as well. So as before that you could actually say something and it would be people would be like, oh, that's a pretty offensive joke or something like that. They seem to be like, well, by and large, that's fine. But now we live in a world where you're watching this talk live and you're taping it and you're taping it on your phone and everything like that. If somebody puts it out there and people are like, oh good, this is the next issue of the day. I'll give you an example that I made. I made this song called Burqa Woman once, and it was a parody of this song Pretty Woman. So it was like, and it was just meant to be fun. And it was kind of, the idea behind the video was actually kind of like, how do you look at a woman in a burqa and do you look at her as a woman, or are you not supposed to look at it? So kind of just like a funny thing. I don't think it was actually very serious at all and kind of prodded too deeply into it, which it could have. So it kind of went like, burqa woman in your black sheet, burqa woman with your sexy feet, burqa woman. So, you know, my love for you, it grows every time I see your toes, you know. So it kind of went like that, and it was a fun song, and it went viral, you know, and the thing is, that's kind of one of the first times in my life went viral. Back then, even because we hardly had any internet, it started getting thousands of views a day. And I was like, oh my God. And it got 10,000 views, and I was so happy. And then I read the comments underneath it. And I realized it got 10,000 views, and they also wanted to hit me 10,000 times. You know, that's kind of what happened, you know? And then and people were calling me up, and they made it into an issue. They made it into this, people kind of on one side were saying that he's making fun of people in the burqa, and people on the other side were saying that back off, and you know, see, we were right, burqas are wrong. So people had kind of taken it up as their issue and kind of run with it. And so as comedians, we're always kind of now worried about, can we do that and how do we do it? And also, to get on stage, to make money, we need to do this live in front of people. We can't just put it out there and get away with it. We need to be on stage doing this every time. So I remember that the video made it so far that it got all the way to England. And so my friend called me up from London and said, hey, you're on the BBC in London. I'm like, yeah, I'm probably on a shortwave in Kabul right now as well, you know? This is what the state of the world is. Yeah. So that's it. I know there's another question up there. Yes?
You said about the respect. You were talking about the respect for the comedian. You have a lot of respect because my estimate is that on the 2 other sessions going on, you have got 3 times more people here. So don't be discouraged and continue, and you are doing a fantastic
Thank you so much, sir.
I came here.
Thank you so much, sir. But they're just early for Shaheen Rahman. It's not really for us. Oh, thank you. Give him a round of applause. Thank you, sir, for...
मुझे सिर्फ एक बात कहनी थी, सर, आपकी बात से बिल्कुल इत्तेफाक करता हूँ. There is a lot of respect, but like when we go out, तो हमें जो सबसे कॉमन रिस्पॉन्स सुनने को मिलता है, कमेडियन, अच्छा जोक सुनाओ. लाइक ये भी टोटल हमारा जो है ना लाइक ये 3-4 जो सेंटेंसेस है ना इनकी डिफरेंट मैनिफेस्टेशन आती है. इंस्टेड ऑफ बीइंग लाइक कॉमेडियन अच्छा हमारे साथ खाना खाओ, कॉमेडियन अच्छा आपके हम बड़े फैन, अच्छा जोक सुनाओ मुझे अभी हंसा कर दिखाओ, हाँ मैं भी बहुत फनी हूँ. लाइक इट बिकम्स लाइक अ कॉम्पिटिशन इमीडिएटली. हम लाइक सही है आप हंसा लो. तो आई वुड से कि इफ यू रियली रिस्पेक्ट अस, हमें खाना खिलाएं, हमारे शोज पर आए, हमें पैसे दें.
Yeah, thank you. Yes, we got
one last question.
from the lady.
As performers, I'm sure you dealt with hecklers. So if there are any stories you guys want to share, and how do you guys deal with them on a live show?
Oh boy, this is. So we'll tell story, yeah, because we don't want to infringe on the time. We just got 6 minutes, and we don't want to go over for the other performers there. Why don't you tell a story, and then I'll end it.
Okay, मेरे साथ तो ये होता है कि अमूमन I would generally जब मैं एक्ट कर रहा होता हूँ तो I invite hecklers as part of my act. I'm like कि प्लीज़ आप शेयर करें, क्योंकि अक्सर अच्छा पाकिस्तानी अवाम का जो एक सीन है ना, मतलब कि they don't find many topics funny except for one universal topic. सामने वाले बंदे की ले लो आप, सही है. तो हैकलर्स का भी होता है कि आज तो मैं इसकी बजाऊंगा, सही है. बट इफ यू इनवाइट दैट एनर्जी इन कि तू आ जा बेटा, आ जा, तुमने पैसे लिए और मैं तुम्हारे पैसों से तुम्हारी बजाऊंगा. तो इफ यू इनवाइट दैट एनर्जी दैट्स गुड. मैं और जब ये नहीं हो पाता, क्योंकि बिकॉज इट्स वेरी इट्स लाइव, यू नीड टू हैव दैट कॉन्टेक्स्ट इन प्लेस, तो उस वक्त जो है ना जुमले आ जाते हैं. और जब ये नहीं हो पाता तो फिर मैंने इसका शॉर्टकट किया हुआ है कि मैं हमेशा अपना शो का एंड करता हूँ विद एन ऑडियंस मेंबर सॉन्ग. तो एक दफ़ा ये हुआ कि एक बंदे ने मुझे बाकायदा लाजवाब कर दिया, आई हैड नथिंग टू से. मैंने कहा मैं इन पर गाना बनाऊंगा. फिर मैंने 3 मिनट तक उन पर गाना बनाया और फिर मैंने उनकी बजाई और फिर उन्होंने आके मुझे थैंक यू भी किया.
Oh, let's end on that then. Yeah. Let's finish off and let's end with that, with an audience member song. That'll be funny. That'll be good. But Soraya, before that, what about you? Heckler moment?
I've always been like, you know, when even if you have the ability to take on a heckler, it's always like this underlying fear of like, oh my God, I'm going to get heckled and it'll be awful. And I performed in the US last year a couple of times, and I had this really, this woman was really, really drunk, and she was really sweet, but she was completely like ruining the show for a lot of comedians. And then she said something out loud, and then I had to I said something really mean in return, which was hilarious, but like really mean. And then later we became friends. But it happens, and I think when you do it over a period of time, you kind of know how to handle a situation. Like you sort of have these responses that are like, you know, I was just like, is it your family's night off? Like, is that why you're here? Like, you know, family's night off from you? Or like, I said, oh, what do you do for a living? And some guy said that he works for the radio. And then I said, well, you definitely have the face for radio. But I think these are things that we have like as comics in our head. And I mean, it just depends on the situation, but.
Okay. Well, I've had a few heckler moments, but one is apart from stand-up, we all do improvisational comedies. But a lot of times you gotta invite audience members up on stage to do that. And there was just one girl who came, and she had, you know, there was some substance. I still don't know what it was, but she had some substance. There was some kind of substance going on before the show started. And so by the time she came up on stage, you know, we were playing this thing called moving people, you know? And so where you have to kind of move your body into a certain position, you know? And then, so by the time she'd gotten on stage and gotten into her position, we had to literally end the show. So it happens a lot that you'll have people that want to help out sometimes, but it just goes very, very badly wrong. And a lot of times, but when you have a heckler who is kind of coming after you or something like that, as a comedian, it's your job to just shut them down. And so whatever they're saying, whatever you're doing, I will be ruthless. Yeah, I will cut them down to size and everything like that. But that's only for the show. And that's kind of like, okay, I have to take out my Gaudi missile, and she should, like that's kind of what happens, But right now, let's end with Hassaan bin Shaheen's song because we are running out of time. So Hassaan, how does this work? How do you get an example from the audience?
I think an easier way of doing it would be the audience can throw in a bunch of words and I will incorporate them in a song.
Okay, can you start yelling out some words, everyone? Coronavirus. Good, that's a very popular word these days.
Okay, man.
Sorry. Niqab.
Okay.
Hali wali.
Corona.
Tabdili. Tabdili and Chichora.
Tabdili.
Somebody from the top. U-turn. Cricket. घबराना नहीं.
सारे दिल जले बैठे हुए हैं ना.
Develop here. Just say Kaptan already. Just get it over with.
मुझे क्यों निकाला?
मुझे क्यों निकाला? Good, good. Evening it out.
चलें भाई, इसको
I think these guys are very woke. They're a very woke audience. They want you to do so. Go. You won't mind.
मरने के लिए free में तो तैयार नहीं.
You won't mind if he goes crazy, right? So don't get offended, Hassaan bin Shaheen. We are giving you total creative freedom to go crazy. Go. Should I hold the mic in front of you, or we want you to?
मैं music भी लगा लेता हूँ, देखते हैं.
Oh yeah. Put the music on as well. This is good.
कोशिश देखें, it's being made on the fly. अगर बुरा हुआ तो याद रखें, आपने इसके पैसे नहीं दिए.
Do you want me to hold the thing in front of the phone?
Yeah.
Okay, good. Okay. Bail darling. Okay.
Okay, करो. Music लगा रहा हूँ मैं एक second.
Yeah, good. Go for it.
कोरोना वायरस तब्दीली. निकाब. चलें बिस्मिल्लाह, देखते हैं क्या होता है. एक सेकंड. अच्छा नहीं मिल रही. एक सेकंड. थोड़ा
technical. Take your time. It's okay. We only have 2 minutes
musician
left.
technical difficulties तो होती हैं.
I think that the next session starts at 3:10, so you got a little bit of time.
वो डाल देंगे.
मेरे पास तुम
आप
हो,
वो मेरे
तो आ
पास.
जाएगा.
मेरे दिल में समाये हुए हो.
Danish.
मर गया.
Don't give away the ending.
एक सेकंड दे दीजिए मुझे. एक सेकंड दे दें, मैं बस लगा रहा हूँ.
Okay, no. Take your time. We're just awkwardly sitting here. It's okay.
We're just waiting.
Latifa. Queen Latifah or the other one? No, it's Hassaan's turn now. I've told you enough jokes. Should I tell you one more joke?
हाँ, please.
Huh?
Please सुना दें.
No, is there any more questions? So I did stop it with the question. First, and before I tell a joke, I'll ask, are there any more questions? Oh yes, there is one more question there. There's one more question while we wait.
मेरा सवाल बहुत अहम है.
अरे जी, बताइए जनाब, बताइए.
वो ये है कि मैं अभी गुलिस्तानी जोहर से आया हूँ.
ओह.
और मुझे जरा हैकलर का मतलब समझा दीजिए. होता क्या है?
क्या?
तो मैं क्या कहेंगे?
क्या?
हेकलर का मतलब.
अच्छा, ये हेकलर का मतलब क्या है?
जी, मैंने आज तक नहीं सुना है सर.
मेरे ख्याल में आप शीशे में देख लें. आप अभी
उर्दू में बताइए.
आईने में देख लें. नजर आ जाएगी आपको.
म्यूजिक आ रहा है आपको? सुनाई? म्यूजिक सुनाई दे रहा है?
हाँ.
अब मैं जरा वर्ड्स निकालूं.
वर्ड्स माइक.
या नहीं, मैं वो वर्ड्स देखने भी नहीं लिखे हैं. वर्ड्स तो याद नहीं होंगे ना. राइम कितने फ्री में कितना चाहिए आपको भाई? देखो सारे लोग, ये मुझे बोले चौड़ा, बंदा अजीब, मैं हो गया छिछोरा. सारे लोग मुझको, जान मेरी छोड़ो ना, मुझको देखो फिर हो गया कोरोना वायरस हूँ मैं बीमार. मर गया हूँ ना मैं, इसलिए बीट रुक गई है. कोरोना वायरस हूँ मैं बीमार. देखो सबको लगे आग. एक मिनट. सबको लगे आग. देखो हो गई ये टर्न. मैंने फिर से लिया देखो यू टर्न. मुझको सबने बोला कि तुम हमारे नाना. मैंने बोला तो मैं नहीं घबराना. मुझे क्यों निकाला? मैंने बोला कि बंदा मैं आला. मेरे पास तुम इसलिए तेरे पीछे मैं गुप. कोरोना वायरस यहाँ पे आ रहे. कोरोना वायरस यहाँ पे आ रहे. कराची वाले उसको डराते. कोरोना वायरस जहाँ पे आते अपना मोबाइल चोरी करवाते.
Give me a round of applause. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen. Big round of applause for Hassaan bin Shaheen. It's Soraya, Mahmood. Keep the applause going. I'm Saad Haroon, and thank you to the Adab Festival for having us here. Stay tuned for your next talk, starting momentarily.
Ladies and gentlemen, I want to announce one thing, that we are having the sessions with Shiri Rahman. I would like to say, please be seated for a few seconds. We are going to start it.